Okay, I'm gonna call the order the select board meeting Monday, November 21st, 2022. If you can join me, we'll stay in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so the first item on the agenda tonight is, this is the first public meeting in a series of many about the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA funds that are being handed out to the town. It's nearly $2 million, so what we're looking for tonight is just some input from the residents of the town on what we should do with the money. If anybody wants to come out, it's pretty much, we just want your input to give us some ideas which direction to go.
Just a little housekeeping. If you could state your name, we're gonna ask you to come up, submit your idea. If there's something that you don't wanna say either tonight, or you think about it after, you can email me, Jen. We will, we'll note that. And we are getting just under $2 million, in case anyone was wondering how much money we're going to be getting. We have a good amount of that already from the federal government.
Dare if I mention something, John?
Go ahead.
See, when it first came out too, it was seemed pretty restrictive on what the funds could be used for. So just a couple of categories, and one of them was water and wastewater. So our initial thought was to look at doing some, maybe exploring some ideas about some small water, wastewater stuff down around the bay. So that's about as far as we've gotten, I think, on that. And since then, with the updated rule, so to speak, it's a little bit more flexible. So that's why we really want to hear, maybe people like that idea. Maybe they'd rather us go a different route. So I'd love to hear some great ideas.
And we're just asking that you limit it to maybe 3 minutes until everyone has had the opportunity to speak. Does anyone want to go first? Is anyone here for the ARPA money?
Well, I don't know, I could say something, I guess.
Come on up.
Please.
I'll get all red-faced.
It's okay.
I think about all the small, I was reading the website a little bit and it's saying how to help small businesses get back on their feet, and I don't know, I think about the people, right to the people that were injured by COVID, or maybe the COVID shots, and they're having to deal with huge medical payments. And I just wish we could help people with their medical bills to help them get them back on the feet so they could get back to their stores and help them out that way. That's just one thing I was thinking of.
Can we have your name for the record?
Donna Delorier.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Come on up, Paul.
Sorry, you gotta come to
It's
the
a lot of
front.
time for a 30-second talk.
It's okay.
Get up and back.
You never did it in 30.
You wanna see your-
evening, Paul. You never did it in 30 seconds, Paul.
Oh, I will tonight. It's very simple. I wasn't planned for this. Paul Larder, St. Albans Bay. You had discussions about fixing this intersection and working on pedestrian improvements here in the Bay Area. And if that's feasible, it's a thought. That's all.
The intersection right here by the Bay Store.
The intersection by the Bay Store,
Okay,
we've
yep.
talked about that for
We have.
15, 20 years.
Correct.
And you got $2 million to do infrastructure improvements and other things. As we learned back, I'm dating myself, the Nixon years of revenue sharing, the towns that spent their money on infrastructure are the ones that benefited. The ones that spent it on projects and things that require employment are the ones that lost when the money went away. So when you got a one-shot deal to do infrastructure, do something with it, infrastructure-wise. It's gonna last. It'll last you 50 years or 100 years. Projects or the feel-good stuff, it lasts until the money runs out. And then you gotta raise the taxes to cover the bills to keep the feel-good stuff going. So infrastructure lasts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come up?
Everybody says facing the intersection.
Okay,
Okay.
Get some more noise.
hearing none, we're gonna move
There's
on.
somebody on Zoom who has her hand up, Amanda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go, you can go, Amanda.
Hi, speaking of intersections, I think something really does need to be done by Church Road, Little County, Pat Crosby on Georgia Shore, especially with the new town hall coming and more traffic. Absolutely nobody stops at the end of Church Road. It's dangerous.
I believe Carrie has a plan for that intersection moving forward.
We do have a plan, and we had intended to put up markers there, and then internally, we had someone question, our plan. So I went back to doing a little bit of work on it, and I wanted Dave Allerton's advice, before we move forward and put the delineators in. That was what we were planning to do, is remark it and put reflectors basically, in that would prevent people from cutting across basically 3 different roads at one time without stopping. So we do plan to do that in the spring, after researching the questions, safety questions that came up. And now we can't do it because unfortunately you can't get paint to really adhere when it's this cold out. It doesn't frankly dry, and we don't want it all over everyone's cars. We did not forget about it, just in case anyone else was concerned about it as well.
Thank you.
It's a good point, we didn't forget.
Okay, come on up, Ann.
Yeah, Ann Pomeroy. In regards to this intersection down here, do we own this road yet? Have we taken over the road as
No.
far as?
We don't own 36, and that plan that your dad mentioned was, something we were gonna try to have V-Trans do before we took it over.
I mean, are we actively pursuing this, or?
Yes, we are, and in the legislature this year, we got permission for the V-Trans, Secretary of V-Trans, Commissioner, I'm not sure, Corey can correct me, to begin negotiating with the town. We had to get permission to do that, and we got that this
And
past spring.
what's the thought as far as can be done down there? I mean, are we gonna put, are we talking about a roundabout, are we talking about?
Well, I don't know, that's gonna have to be engineered
No.
other than
Yeah.
us, right? That's
Part of
not-
it was initially, they did a safety audit on the intersection, so that meant there's about 12 V-Trans employees
Mhm.
down there, and what they suggested was formalizing it by making it a 4-way stop, meaning, yes, even coming from the Bay Dock, it would be a stop just to control the speed.
Mhm.
And a survey is gonna need to be done so that we know exactly where everyone's property is. Chuck at Bayside had said he would be willing to give up his parking on that Georgia Shore roadside and make it green, and some
Yeah.
flowers and some pottery, things like that. Because you really shouldn't have parking and people walking right where everyone
Well, they already
starts.
have trucks, if a truck parks their back ends out. into the
Right,
road,
right.
Pretty much.
Exactly, so.
So it's not a safe intersection, especially
Correct.
with the, the creamy stand in the summertime, the amount of people we have down here.
The crosswalk's gonna have to be moved too. They don't like crosswalks, to be placed behind a stop sign either, so, yeah, those were things we were gonna ask V-Trans to consider.
Okay, that might help the traffic speed
Mm-hmm.
going up and down.
Correct, or people going straight when they're supposed to be turning, or no signals, yes.
Yeah, and if they could put couple speed bumps in, it would be even better.
Yeah, we can't do that, that's allowed.
Have a removable one.
Thank you, Ann. Come on up.
I don't have a statement, I just had a quick question. The new town hall is, what is the date for opening? Do we have that
December
date yet?
5th.
December 5th. You mentioned because of the colder weather, the paint, an alternative for that intersection, maybe just like pre-paving reflective stamps that they use quite frequently. If somebody feels it's a danger, it lights it up a little bit more before you put the paint in. That's it.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Noted. Anybody else? Okay. Nobody on Zoom. Don, oh, he's with the front. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next item. It's the Old Town Hall public meeting. So, I'm guessing the majority of people besides the sheriff are here and Al are for the hearing on the public, the Old Town Hall public meeting. So there's some info up at the back. I don't know if you could, yeah, a couple people grabbed some stuff. Bill Hinman did a highest and best use summary of the property. You can read through that stuff. I guess again, we're just looking for comments from the public on what we should do with this building. And if anybody wants to come up and.
Can we get some ideas from you, what's been proposed, what's been discussed? Sure.
So Carrie, well, I'll let Carrie, she got an email from Art, well, I'll let her speak, Arts Vermont.
Yeah, I got
Council.
an email from someone who was seriously considering putting a daycare here. And we had some interest at our last meeting, for a different use, but this person has called me now 3 or 4 times for the daycare, and they're pretty interested in that. In that handout, we also had zoning evaluated, because at our last meeting, a few people had questions about what you could do here. So there's a list of possible uses that are conditional use. You know, they're allowed, if you go to the DRB and ask for permission to do that. And just to clarify, so this project, I feel like we've been working on it for 3 years, but the new town hall is now ready to move into. And we are gonna start moving Wednesday of this week, which means next week, 11/28 through 12/2, the office is gonna be closed while we make that transition over to the new office. And the next public meeting we have for the select board should be in the new location. So I'm pretty excited about that. So that's why, once we all get settled, we're eager to figure out what to do with this building going forward. We're not doing anything with it immediately at all, because we're gonna wait to see that if we moved everything we needed to move over, but that's kinda where we're at. Office space was asked, a couple different people called in the last year to ask if they could use it for incubator office space. They didn't call back, they probably came and looked at it, I've seen a couple people look at it, but that's about it right now. Cause we didn't have a firm move-out date either, so I'm thinking now people hopefully will be more interested.
What about what was thrown out at the last meeting by Brendan Dusa on, as far as a warming hut for, warming shelter? for homeless?
That was brought up, I'm not sure that's the best use, but we have, it's on our list of, yes, that was put out there, but normally those places like to be adjacent to other things, and this is not adjacent to a grocery store, or even, I don't know, I'm not sure how practical that would be if we had to close it during the daytime, I'm not sure where people would go.
Go ahead, Paul.
What I've always got suggestions, but.
Can you come up, Paul, just so it's easier for the camera?
People know who I am, they see me on the street.
Get some extra
I don't have my
exercise.
yellow rain suit on.
Get a little extra exercise.
Oh, a little more? We think I need it? I got 6 today. What I really want to suggest, and that, I saw how that item that was just expressed was received last week. You can tell by the faces on the board. Whatever you do here, you've got to consider what's happening down here. And that use has to enhance this neighborhood, because that's exactly what we have here, a neighborhood. And you know, a few sidewalks wouldn't hurt. That was the thing maybe with the town hall being out there. Some of us walk to the meetings. And having a sidewalk out there, many of us who don't all come to the meeting, there's at least probably 5 of us here tonight, walk out here regularly or run. And enhancements like that. But whatever you do with this building, please consider the impact on your taxes, because I mean, I don't mind my taxes go down because you put crap in here. But if you do, that's what's gonna happen down here. And we've been here a few years now. You guys, some of you were here, but you weren't when I came here. We went through the pits back in the 80s. Right in the middle of the 80s, it was really the pits. And it's been coming back. Houses have been repurchased, they've been modernized, they've been fixed up. The park has been improved considerably. That little suggestion was just off the wall. And it raised enough concern and enough hackles that we would like to remind you, please, we care about our properties down here. Just because the town hall's leaving, we don't want anything here that will detract from it. We had these discussions years ago in the planning commission and the development review board about where certain uses should be. Well, even though they can be here, that doesn't mean they should be here. Because this is primarily a residential neighborhood, in spite of what zoning exists here. We like the restaurants. You know, it was nice when the school was up there. We got our post office, we got a lot of good things going here, but this is still a residential neighborhood. And I would ask you, please consider that. Thank you.
Anybody else want to come up? You want to come up, please?
Yeah, you can sit down in that chair if you'd like to.
Oh, that's okay. My name is Pat Vincent, and I live directly next door. And I definitely will oppose a daycare. I do not want the noise. And kids running, there's not enough room between this building and our building. And I don't feel that I should have to listen to probably 20 kids all day long screaming and hollering. In the summertime, we can hear them from the school. That ain't too bad because they're not right under your feet. But no, I do object to a daycare. I don't know why we couldn't make this into like a little town community center. Town keep it. Make a community center for us. I think that's a great idea. Get some computers, people could come in and use them.
Yep, yeah, I like that.
I think that would be good.
Rent out space for desks,
Yep.
desk space,
Well, that's the incubators
yeah.
that you had people talking about.
Maybe you could put in like, people come in, have a little coffee shop in here. Something that the people can use. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Oh, come on up.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of a community center, because I love historic buildings. I'd like to still be able to visit this building. That's why it'd be nice if the St. Albans Museum needed extra space. They could set up some stuff down here too. But I was looking at your conditional uses too. A theater would be fun, I like that. And a little restaurant, a little cafe, I'd like that. And another thing you probably wouldn't like because it's private. It's like I'm a Moose member, but we lost our club on Lake Street, and then we were in where Martha's is now on Lake Street, and they're still looking for a new building. I'm like, we could have the Moose Club here because I miss those get-togethers. I just wanted to put that out there. We're still looking for a building. They had, they were looking at the Knights of Columbus on Main Street, but state of Vermont grabbed it and outbid them. So I just wanted to bring them up. But I like the community center. I would like to see like computers set up for maybe classes for senior citizens that have trouble learning computers, where we could have little classes for them, or maybe even a copy center. Since we lost Staples, set up some copiers where people could come here and, do a little paperwork. That's about it. Thanks.
Thank you.
And again,
Come on up, Ann.
just quick, the building's big enough, we could have all of the above. Because you're segregated out, you have something in this area, you have something in the other area. Upstairs could be office space for people to rent out desks. So you could bring in revenue from all 4 areas that you decide to put in here. You could probably fill the building enough where it's not, people aren't going to be here constantly, so you may not have an issue with your septic. And that's really the only thing I can think of that's the holdback on the use. Is that it? Is that right? I mean, even a daycare. You couldn't have a daycare. You can't have a million kids going to the bathroom when we have inadequate septic.
I think that is one of the challenges. I don't know how many kids.
But that would be the thing, is you don't have to have one use. You can make it a multi-use building. If they wanted to do the moose down here or whatever, you have, have a certain area designated for that. If you want to have a little cafe, you could have, or a copy center, have it in the other area. You could put all of these things together and make it work. That's it.
Thank you.
Kevin Waller. I haven't heard anybody mention, is this a sale? Are they selling the building? Is the building for sale?
I think we're considering, selling it and or leasing it, so that decision hasn't been made yet either.
If it's leased, will it go back onto the tax roll? Will this go back onto the tax roll? Will it become a taxable
If the
property?
town owns it and leases it, I don't think so, but that's a good question, we don't know.
Okay, so at this point in time, it'll be tax-free building in any kind of shape or form.
It could be, but if we set, that's a good point, so.
If you sell it, it'll be back on the.
Back on the tax
revenue.
rolls, if a nonprofit's in here, for
And
instance.
are
know.
you allowed to put, on the sale, are you allowed to put stipulations on what the building can be used for?
I don't know.
Being a historic building.
But it can't change the outside.
Right.
There already are stipulations on the building, so it's not like the town would be putting them on, they're already there.
And could you carry it, I mean, the daycare scenario would be probably a nightmare for these people with cars coming and going, picking up and dropping off first thing in the morning, late thing in the afternoon. I think that'd be a real traffic hazard. But my thoughts and everything I've heard about this is we were talking about trying to do something to turn this into a town center. This is gonna come up. And I think if it was going to stay off the tax roll, is if you did some kind of a situation where this was a destination museum type, not to quote museum, but, you know, artisan type scenario where if you had a gallery type things where you had maybe demonstrations of different artists in the area, you could probably put maybe a
Small exhibition center, you were.
something of that nature, or you'd bring in, glass blowers and things of that nature, I mean, your locals. And then as an agricultural area, maybe we could do something as an historical significance of agriculture in the area. Something that was living, not to go to the point of echo, but if you're looking to draw people down here for a good purpose, to bring people in and make it a destination, I think that would be more cohesive for the community as opposed to turning it into something that's gonna be a traffic nightmare at certain hours of the day. You'd have a little bit easier flow, and maybe you could even, and some people were talking about a community type scenario where, you know, maybe you could have a contra dance place type deal or that kind of a thing.
Like a Grange Hall.
Like a Grange Hall type style thing. And if it's coming off, you know, if you're gonna keep it off the tax rolls, that might be one way to do it. But just, and a cafe down here wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, you could definitely support that. But.
That's two major places.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin.
Anybody else? Okay. Okay, hearing none, we're gonna move on. Are you guys all good? Okay, moving on.
Wait,
Oh,
are you planning on heating this place for the, continue the heating? You know, we discussed this at the last meeting.
yeah, me and Carrie talked about it. I reached out to someone I know, and he said if the only concern he would have turning the heat off is make sure you leave the heat on in the basement so the foundation doesn't get frostbite and push in. The rest of the building can get cold, and the heat from the basement will rise. Like, you're gonna get frost on your windows, but it's not gonna hurt anything to let the building go cold as long as there's no water in the pipes. So that's what I was told. So, and Carrie, I believe, was gonna reach out to historic preservation or something like that at one
Well,
point. you
a
said.
commercial HVAC person
Or-
first, but.
Yeah, but to get their
Not
input, to
that
get like another
responsible.
second opinion, but that's what we came up with so far. Cause if we're not gonna use the building, I don't see no reason in heating it, you know. And then we talked about maybe winterizing it and keeping it at like 40 degrees up here, not like turning the heat completely off, but just keeping it at 40, you know, winterize the bathrooms and trying that.
flush out the septic, flush out the pipes.
RV and food.
Yeah, just like an RV, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Paul.
How many gallons are you using currently to heat this in the winter?
I couldn't tell you that amount.
I know we had budgeted about $7,000 a year for fuel to heat this building. I don't know how many gallons that cost the last cycle.
Today's price.
Not very many.
Call it 1,000 gallons for
Yeah.
easy math.
It's $42,000.
What'd you get?
Which seemed low to me.
Oh,
That's not bad.
Yeah, sorry, 7.
Okay.
All right, well, if you think of anything, you can send me an email. We'll be collecting comments for a little while.
Okay, good enough. So moving on to the warrants. I have the general fund warrant, in the amount of $93,141.21 dated November 18th, 2022. Pretty much some common stuff. The health insurance, which was $27,000, is a big one. So we also need to take off $16,730. That was for a plow from Champlain Valley Equipment. That's gonna be charged to the capital equipment account and not from the general fund equipment parts and repair.
I saw that and I was wondering
Okay.
what the heck they wrote to cause that.
So if anybody wants to make that motion with that amendment to approve the general fund.
I'll make that motion.
Perfect.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Brian has the payroll warrant.
Do the payroll warrant. I've got two of them. One's dated November 10th, 2022. It's in the amount of $21,509.45. Second one is dated November 18th, 2022, in the amount of $20,917.36. Neither of these have the agency checks, just the regular direct deposits. And make a motion that we accept both payroll warrants as presented.
A second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Jack has the infrastructure warrant, the stormwater warrant, and the stonehouse warrant.
Right. The infrastructure development warrant is for a total of $1,910. And then there's some, what's that, insurance at Liberty Mutual? Okay.
Builder's risk.
And this DuPont storage is, what's that for?
That was for, right, are you on the infrastructure development warrant? Oh, okay. I didn't see that on mine, but,
Carrie, it was late this afternoon, I got
Oh,
a
okay,
couple
I
of
see.
invoices from that
that
and from
one-
DuPont.
okay, that's the storage, the people that we bought the vault storage for the
Oh.
new town hall, and because it was a few months late, they couldn't install it when we originally wanted.
So
That's
that,
done
so the
now.
total of that then is $2,610 total. I'll make the motion, we approve that.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Next one's a stormwater utility warrant for $1,938. That's for the company that's running the checks and stuff, right?
The stormwater utility warrant, yeah, well, we also
Bergeron,
paid for some
Paradis, and
legal
Fi-
work.
Yeah, okay, so that's
Yep.
what that check is for? Legal work?
Yeah, when we were doing some templates for stormwater agreements
Mhm.
and things like that, when we set it up with a homeowners association.
Okay. And I'll make the motion, we approve that.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the last one.
Next. Oh, no, we got two more. Yep.
Industrial.
Industrial park warrant, that's basically Green Mountain Power for the sewage pump and the road lights and the street lights for $691.63. Anybody wanna make a motion to approve that?
I'll make that motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
Perfect. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And last but not least is the Stone House warrant for $1,200. And the invoice is from the Vermont Reindeer Farm. Apparently we're leasing it out for reindeer pasture. What's going on?
We, you wanna
We're
get
gonna
into
start
the
selling-
reindeer?
We're gonna start
It-
selling
it-
reindeer.
It's for the holiday event that we're
Oh.
hosting this coming weekend.
Okay,
Kids give it a ride.
all right.
Did they get to ride them?
I actually don't know.
I thought one year they had like
I thought they did, but I don't wanna promise that, I'm not sure.
They give them sleigh rides?
We need to, well, you know, Santa has to make.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion, we approve that.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So that wraps up the warrants. You have the minutes in front of you from November 7th. Any changes, edits? No? Good. Hearing none. Anybody want to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the
I'll
minutes.
second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Number 6, public comment. Or public comment. Anybody want to come up to the hot seat for a public comment? Okay.
Big crowd, but you're quiet.
Can I make a suggestion?
You can, Ian. Come on up.
Yep, you do.
Or if it's real
short
quick,
walk.
don't
You know how
bother.
you know how you put the flags up along the light poles in the summertime?
Sure.
How about putting up some like Christmas
We
light
usually do,
balls
don't we?
or wreaths on them? You've got the power there, or you can get battery operated ones that are
I don't know if we did. I liked seeing them out.
That would be nice. I mean, the city does it. It would be really nice to see that down here.
I think we did it.
Just my suggestion.
Didn't we just borrow the boom truck the other day?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Could have had them come down and do that.
Yeah.
Borrow them again.
Do it with the bucket.
We don't have any of those items, but sure.
Okay. Number 7, resolution. So in your packet, you have a municipal planning grant that you saw. Megan, I believe, filled it out, right? Megan was in charge of it. It's for a feasibility study on the old DPW site.
Right.
It's a grant to figure
Grant
out the
application.
best use, right? If we get the grant, then there's some money there to figure out what the best use for the property is.
Right.
So does anybody wanna make a motion to approve that grant?
And
Or do we want
am I
to
seeing it
discuss
right
it
too,
more?
Jonathan,
Go
that
ahead.
we put up 2,000, then we put 18, or we get 16, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a-
9 to
it's a
1 or so
That's
match.
not bad, that's pretty good.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'll make a motion, well, what do I? Call it, we sign the grant request, I guess it's to authorize you to sign it, looks like Carrie already has. So a motion to sign the grant request form for Agency of Commerce and Community Development Municipal Planning Grant.
And the resolution.
And
if you
the
wouldn't mind.
resolution.
Right, yeah, there's a resolution. The state likes resolutions for these things.
Okay, is that something I need to read?
I don't
We got that.
believe so. I have it here. It looks like this. Oh, yeah,
yes,
you
got
have
that
it right there.
Yep, yep.
It basically says the municipality is applying for the funding through the Department of Housing and Community Development, and that will use these funds for the purpose that we just stated. I grossly oversimplified a whole page, but that's what they're asking us to sign.
Has it been
Do you want me to
seconded?
read, I mean?
I don't think you need to
No,
read
you
it.
didn't make a motion.
You just need to approve it and sign
Yep.
both things.
I wanna discuss it.
You,
You wanna-
we can discuss it before, yeah.
Well, I just wondered, do we need to pay somebody to tell us what to do with the place? Can't we figure that out on
I
our
think
Well,
it's
because
the giveaway
it does a
before,
broader,
so-
it does like economic impact to the area. You know, what would be the best fit
What
to
we're
get the
allowed to do
most?
with it.
Who does that? Who does that work?
Well, if we got the grant, we'd have to put it out to bid, and one of the reasons we would ask somebody to actually give us this, to study it would be to give us a conceptual plan of what to do with it. Like, we think that some of the best uses, for, it would be a boat launch, right? But if we wanna apply for federal or state funds, without a feasibility study like this done, it's more difficult to get those funds. So we're just asking them to give us a conceptual plan for what would be the best use of that area.
I'm assuming it'd be similar to the report we had tonight from Bill Hinman on this building.
It is similar, but it's probably gonna be more in depth. I mean, the good news is we just got done with the wells, and I think this week or next week, they're gonna be abandoning the monitoring wells that they put out there, so we're in a really good spot now as far as that goes. If we want it to be a state access and get state funds for it that sometimes have federal strings.
But we have to do the study,
We do because we own the property right now.
but if the state was gonna use it for like a boat launch, they wouldn't do it?
They might do it, that's a good point.
I'm just, you know,
Yep.
seems like we study everything to death and nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
That's true, but we've
That's what
never
town
studied
government
this
studies.
property.
That was my question, just comments.
Yeah, but I think it's, well, it did say something about a conceptual plan in there, so you're actually getting some, like, engineering and stuff involved, like preliminary, so you actually know what you're getting into. Like, 'cause, so say if you wanna put a boat launch in, how are you gonna come up with some kind of a plan to put a dollar figure at it? Or you're just gonna dartboard it at, say, $1 million, like, at least this gives you a plan where you could send it out to, I don't know who, Island Excavator, some company be like, build this, or give us a price on it, and then you could put it to the, like, I think it just gets us moving in the right step.
But the feasibility study doesn't plan that, I mean, it just says you could do this, this, or this.
We're asking them to evaluate what the uses are and what permitting is gonna be required, so in essence, kind of give us a conceptual budget as well. So I guess at that point, you could decide, town doesn't want it, do you wanna sell it to the state? We have thought about using it for overflow parking for our new town hall, so I was thinking that you wouldn't wanna necessarily sell it, but maintain some control. So what does that look like if the state wants you to have it open all the time?
Would they look into having someone other than the state buy it? Like, could a private individual buy that for some other purpose?
They
Like,
could.
I don't have any idea what it would be,
Right.
but, I mean,
They could, I don't think they're gonna identify buyers, so yes, that
but
is-
uses, and then a private citizen
Absolutely,
could
you're
come
right,
in and
yes.
say,
Mhm.
that fits some plan they
Yeah,
have.
exactly, there's this much frontage. Yeah,
Can I backtrack just a second for a question? This thing started with a $2,000 payment and a $16,000 repayment back to the town. Are we still speaking about this? Or is
We're-
it
and so-
$16,000 conceptual?
And your name?
Peter Hatfield.
So what we're talking about is applying for a grant that
Mhm.
the study would cost about $18,000 and the town's required match is about $2,000. So a grant is a gift that
Yes,
we
I-
wouldn't have to pay back, but we would pay roughly usually, I think, 20% of the
So
cost.
simplifying it, we'd be paying $2,000 to get $16,000 back, but this is all for a study for some kind of a project that could run into the millions, based on like a boat launch or something like that.
It-
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be our project, it would be a project that some entity could embark on. But it's not, we're not saying that the town,
We're not gonna do it.
we're not doing the project, but we're trying to lay out what an individual could do with the site, or a entity like the state could do with the site. It's just what's feasible to do there.
Within the
Understood,
regulations.
so it's permitted, the town would accept this based on, popular vote in order to let this company or whatever do this type of project.
I'm not sure if that's how that would work. I don't know if it goes to a town vote, but I'm not sure. I just don't know that.
We don't go to a vote for just a feasibility study. If we got the results of that and then wanted to apply for a really large grant and do a project and use town funds, that goes to a vote, but we don't go to the voters for
Right.
feasibility study type things.
Okay, I was just trying to get the
Yep.
math straight. in my
Yeah.
head.
Yep. Ann?
This is the grant that we reviewed at our planning commission meeting
It is.
recently.
Yep.
And on the first page, it tells, I mean, there's a description on what it tells. Maybe you wanna read it so people can understand what they're looking at. It's
Yep.
for the old town garage building site.
Yep.
They were discussing putting in, whether it be grassed over. I don't know that,
Well, it's right here, so you're right, it's only a
Yeah.
couple sentences.
go ahead and read it. I mean,
Yep, that's a good idea. This grant would help us pay for a consultant to do a feasibility study that would determine the best use and design of the property. It would involve community outreach, identify all permitting requirements, and create a site plan including public parking, open space, and possibly a boat launch at the old Public Works facility on George Shore.
Which could be small boat, if it's a boat launch, it'll end up being non-motorized or small motors, because the water's not deep enough there, you'd have to go to, Corps of Engineer dredge. So we're talking about maybe like a park area that, you know, with a
Fishing
parking
sheds.
lot, people could go out, take their kayaks out.
It'd relieve some of the stress on the other one.
It would, and that's one of the things that we mentioned in there, is that it would relieve the stress of the boat launch out on Hathaway Point.
Well, there's an abundance of boats. We need big boats in the water, it's not kayak. I mean, you could designate some of the stuff at the town park for kayaks if you really wanted to. But anyways, that's not for this discussion. I'm not gonna discuss that right now, but,
Can I ask you a question?
go ahead, Paul.
Please speak up.
Okay.
Or why can't you speak louder?
Okay,
I
I
know you
will.
don't have
Sorry.
mics anymore, but we just cannot hear you. You have to
Come
enunciate.
December, well, do
We're
we
gonna
have
get-
microphones yet? or
We don't
not
have
gonna-
microphones yet, but we're
Soon.
getting microphones and speakers to amplify
When you
those
come to the
people
new
on board.
building, we're gonna be amplified, so.
Well, I put my hearing aids in for tonight, turned them up, and I still can't hear the words you're saying. I hear
okay.
noise.
We'll be loud.
You're good, Carrie. So are you.
Okay, so
Still need a motion.
we still need a
Yes.
motion.
I got the
for that.
motion on, I think, unless you want me to remake
You
it,
did,
but,
no, you did.
Oh, you did, I did.
Yeah, it's in the
Okay.
second.
Anybody wanna second that motion?
Your turn.
I'll second it because Jack doesn't want
You didn't say that.
to. No, I'm just kidding. I'll second it. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Town managers report, Carrie, take it away.
All right, so Joe's here as well. Joe Luna's done a lot of work on the certified local government, entity for us. He's asking you to consider, applying for this grant that I guess makes us able to get more grant funds. So Joe, can you come up and
Yeah, I'd be
briefly?
happy to. And specifically, it's not this is not a grant in and of itself.
I didn't think so, but the word was used in it and I wasn't sure. Please help
I'm ready to
us.
stand here.
Sure.
No,
So you can sit if you want.
Sit.
I don't
Sit,
mind.
Joe.
Nobody wants to sit near Jeff when
Didn't
he's
think I was
really
a good
not
to
that
sit at
bad.
the
Oh, boy.
select board. You added bonus to my day. But the certified local government program is actually something that comes from the National Park Service, and it's for historical education. It's administered by the state of Vermont, Department of Commerce Historical Preservation Division. Specifically there's one historical architect for the state of Vermont, currently a guy named Devin Coleman. And so there are about 14 communities that have this status, and what it does is it makes them eligible for historical education grants, which are federal monies. And those can be used for things like district surveys. So the city of St. Albans a couple of years ago renewed its downtown historic district, which was originally demarcated in 1980, which actually brought up some fairly interesting stuff. This past year, the city of St. Albans didn't have any projects, and so they allowed the St. Albans Museum to be a co-applicant, and the museum received funds to do a project which is called The Other Church Street, which basically talks about Church Street here in St. Albans. And what does it cost the town? it could, the town could decide to participate in something, or they may do nothing. Unlike some other grants, there's no actual mandatory financial piece. I mean, it can be in kind. So like this year, the other Church Street project, the local match is actually just museum staff time. And it's fairly flexible as well. The city of, I actually sit on the state board that looks at these applications, which is how I found out about it to begin with. The city of Burlington did some historic structure coloring books for second or third graders a few years ago. And it just, it creates an avenue whereby we can kind of memorialize what's in our communities without local funding. And so, in order to do that, there are a few things that need to be done. This select board created an enabling ordinance to create the St. Albans Town Historic Preservation Commission, I believe in 2019. Then we had COVID and some other, staff turnover here and what have you, so there's been a little bit of a delay. But anyway, we've done everything we need to do, except we need sign off from the select board. So obviously you're the governing body of St. Albans Town. And we need to hold our 4th meeting of the year, which will be a week from tomorrow. I'm happy to answer any other questions. So this isn't a grant application per se. It's request to submit an application to the state of Vermont to be forwarded to the National Park Service that would make us, St. Albans Town, eligible for future historic education grant consideration.
Okay, great.
Does anybody have any questions?
So we're checking to see if we want to be considering the future.
Well,
So, something like that. I mean, if we say no, then we're not going to get, I don't know, we'll be part of those grant ideas. But
well, if
we
it's
say
not
yes,
something you want to do, I mean, frankly, I would suggest just disassembling the Historic Preservation Commission, because it really would have no reason to exist. Correct. Now, as far as what the projects are, the Historic Preservation Commission here in the town could take a look at, make some suggestions, that ultimately any project scope and projected funding would have to be approved by the select board, obviously.
And where would, so the funds for the projects would be sought after on a per project basis?
Correct. So the money is actually National Park Service money. And the National Park Service allocates X dollars to each state every year. And the gatekeeper for that money is the state of Vermont Department of Historic Preservation, which is part of the Department of, not, agency of, it's not an agency, but anyway, Historic Preservation, whatever the entity is, which is part of the Department of Commerce. And right now, it's actually non-competitive, because there aren't that many communities that have taken the time to get CLG status. So like this past year, there were 2 rounds of grant applications, because there wasn't enough money used in the first round.
Yeah.
Technically, if there's not enough money utilized for historical education, there can also be money for historic preservation, but I've only seen that happen a couple times.
That's what I was going to ask you about. So, I mean, it sounds like education's the primary purpose, so, but I'm thinking of the stone house, is that?
Yeah, there are other vehicles for that
Potentially be
St.
monies
Albans
to help
Town
with
did
them.
avail itself of a state historic preservation grant. I think we were awarded in 2018, maybe 18 or 19. And the town is eligible for that again. That's right now is a $20,000 cap out grant with a 1-to-1 match. That's a financial match.
So we already got this commission, you're saying, right?
The application is complete pending sign off from the select board, and specifically an autograph from Mr. Giroux, unless you have a new chair.
So these commission members that are listed here, I mean, you guys on this commission would kind of take a look at the projects and see which ones might be good for the
Yeah, I mean, specifically, to the best of my knowledge, there are no historic districts in St. Albans Town. I mean, there may be individual properties that are listed, such as the one we're sitting in, but, and that's certainly open to discussion, there would be a public comment piece of that. It'd be premature to have those conversations since we don't even have CLG status. But the thing that's come up most frequently would be some sort of district around where we're sitting here in the Bay, since that's obviously the earliest concentrated development pattern in St. Albans in general. So,
What can it hurt,
and I think one of the things that did hang it up is that staff has a lot of stuff to do here in the town, and it probably didn't make a priority out of all the things you've spoken about. But the commission did the application, and the town manager's office has been kind enough to get us credentials so we can have Zoom meetings. But we've tried our best not to take up any staff time or resources to get this done. And that said, I'd be happy to submit the application, or if the town manager's office wants to do that, that's fine. But I am in regular conversation with the gentleman who actually signs off on the applications at the state level.
So are you looking for a motion?
Yeah, to support the request for local government certification.
Yeah. So specifically, yeah, we would be seeking a motion to get permission to submit the application to the state of Vermont to be afforded the National Park Service, and to also get an autograph from, how do they deem it here?
Chief elected
local official.
Chief elected official.
It's a four-worder.
Chief right here.
Yep, if we can get an autograph from the chief, that would be great, and we could get this thing submitted could probably get it submitted really tomorrow, with the understanding that one of the provisos is there'd be minimum of four Historic Preservation Commission meetings per annum. Our fourth meeting is scheduled a week from tomorrow.
Just one more question, John. You said in the past there have been many that have applied for it. You expect there to be a lot now? Or do you think we'll still be non-competitive maybe?
Well, you would think that there would be more communities that latch on, but you tend to see the same communities every year. So St. Albans City got on board a couple of years ago. Swanton's talked about it, but it's not done. So St. Albans City, to the best of my knowledge, is only a Franklin County town. For some reason, there's a town right outside of Montpelier headed towards Hardwick, and the name's evading me right now.
Marshfield, Plainfield,
It's a really small town.
East Montpelier.
It's not East Montpelier.
Small town.
Anyway, the thing that always I find strange about that town is it avails itself 10% of all the historic preservation money in the state. So obviously, it must be one of the people that work in that department live there or something.
Yep.
But
Well, I'll make the motion that we request this local government certification. What the heck, the application's all filled out.
Second that.
Just the chief's gotta sign it.
Any further discussion?
In that
I think it's a
motion,
great idea.
that the select board authorizes the chair to sign on behalf of the community.
That's what I said.
Oh, excuse me, I didn't hear that.
We gotta get a new government.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve this with the select board signature. Any further discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passed. Sign there. Okay, Joe.
appreciate
thank you.
that very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
Thanks for your work on it.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem. Happy to do it. Is there any way I could steal your autograph on a copy tonight?
There is a way.
I brought 2 copies with me.
Perfect.
He's
Pass that over.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That way we're not,
Jason.
your chief.
well, I'm not chasing your staff tomorrow. We'll be busy.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Joe.
Who says
Thank
local
you,
government
Bill.
doesn't work fast?
Excuse me?
I just think so.
Thanks, Joe.
Well,
That was
thank you very
Jen
much.
from
I
far away.
appreciate it.
Good job.
Good job, Joe.
Should have filmed myself in the bathroom.
That's what I was applauding for,
So
Joe.
glad, that's
Hope that
perfect.
Aaron Linker vote's not in there, Joe.
And to that end, it's the sheriff's time now, so come on up, Roger.
Excited.
Perfect.
Keep these a tough act to follow.
Now it is.
Well, the sheriff's office is looking to go into a pretty busy season. The holidays are always pretty busy for us. Our staffing levels are pretty good. We are losing one deputy to Fish and Wildlife. He's a deputy that I personally recruited last year or 2 years ago when he came out of college. Having a discussion with him, he said he wanted to be a game warden, and I said, well, very seldom does the state hire somebody right out of college, but I hire people and I can help you get into the game wardens, and well, lo and behold, he's getting into the game wardens.
Franklin County or?
Well, it's tough. The game wardens, the way they work is the first year they work in every county in Vermont. So they
Oh,
work
wow.
in 14 different stations. So that first year is going to be tough with him, but he's ready. He's got 2 years of law enforcement experience behind him and got a leg up on everybody else and who was applying who didn't have law enforcement experience. So. And that was one of my things when I became sheriff is I started out with the sheriff's department and I was hoping to start a lot of careers and stuff, and we've got a few of them that we've started. I think down the road we're going to lose a few more to some other agencies simply because we're, another one wants to go federal at some point and that type of thing. And once they get a little more experience, I suspect they will go federal. And everybody's looking for good employees, and once they've kind of created that with another agency, it makes it more likely that you're going to lose them. We do have another deputy who now is gone back into some military duty stuff, which tightens our staff a little bit, going into our busy season with the holidays. We are going to have a couple of deputies. We're working through Walmart. We anticipate that to be a busy Friday for us, a Black Friday. So we got Walmart will be stepping up to have a couple deputies there that they're paying for. It's not coming out of our patrols or anything. I didn't want to see any of our guys tied up there for possibly hours on end with what could go on at some place as busy as a Walmart or that entity. We have a couple of new cruisers that are on order for the next administration when they take over. Those will come hopefully in May. Yeah, and aside from that, it's pretty standard operating now through the holidays. If there's any questions.
What's the uptick in business around the holidays? Is it domestic or is it theft? Or?
Well, it's just a lot of people getting together, the family gatherings that you have. There's sometimes alcohol consumption plays a role in that. So, and it's just a lot more people moving around, between houses and parties and that type of stuff. Our goal is to stay very visible, be out on the roads, spend as little time as you can in the office. Other times you got to do paperwork. But that's our mission, just to be visible.
What's the date the new sheriff takes over?
February 1st. Yep. Yep.
Any other
I don't have
questions?
any other questions. We just try to have you in here once a month, every month.
Oh, I know one thing. I saw the speed cart down here a while back.
Yep.
Are we still putting that up anywhere? Or?
Yeah,
Commission?
pending the weather, obviously with snowbanks on the side of the road, we gotta make sure it's far enough off the road and that type of stuff.
So typically you halt it in the wintertime?
Yeah.
For the most part?
Yeah, and those things, we pretty much burn the light bulbs out of those things in the summertime. Maintenance is what we do in the fall, winter, on those
Okay,
things.
good to know.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it brings us up to the town hall, the new town hall. Town hall budget was put on the agenda. What we meant by that was the new town hall construction budget, just in case someone was curious. Maddie is on Zoom. He's been our project manager, with Hunter, who started the project, quite a few months ago. And in your packets was an updated copy of the construction budget. You wanna provide a brief overview, Maddie?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and just to do a quick work update before we jump into the budget. Well, first thing is that the work is complete and the certificate of occupancy has been issued, which is really exciting. Some minor punch list items remain, like some patching and paint touch-up, interior signage, and the film that's going on those beautiful big glass doors. And then the final big hurdle is the move itself, which, as Carrie mentioned, is taking place Monday and Tuesday of next week. There are a lot of moving parts involved in that. First, we need to empty and prep the vault storage for disassembly and moving. We have the internet and phone service cutover, IT setup, the move itself, and then all of the unpacking that comes after it. I'm sure if anyone wants to help pack, they'd welcome it. So that brings me to the budget update, and this is pay application 13, which was submitted this month and reflects a 99.23% completion. So the end is definitely in sight. I'm expecting just one more pay application to close out all the open line items that remain. The current payment that is due is $88,713.80. 54,000 of which, 54,513 of which is work completed this period, and the remainder is retainage release. And the retainage is now fully released. The balance to finish is 30,902. 18,000 and change of which is the construction manager contingency, which we'll negotiate how that gets allocated at the end. There are some changes at the end of this project, which you're all well aware of. We need to kind of negotiate with the contractor to disperse that CM contingency. The remaining owner contingency is also $18,000. It differs by $400 from what you're seeing on your sheet due to some invoices that came in after I had shared that update. So that's why you're seeing a discrepancy there. So the last steps in my book, I'm sure there are a lot more steps for the town to take on, but are the final owner supplied items, which would be potentially the AV system and monument sign or roadside sign, and that's something that we'll be discussing over the next few days and weeks here. I meant to mention the costs that were applied to the contingency, the owner contingency this month for the DuPont storage fees, which you discussed earlier in the meeting, the builder's risk insurance, and some door side signage, which we need for ADA compliance. So here at the end of the project, it's another pretty brief update, but does anyone have any questions?
Anybody got a question?
No, we're good. We're in pretty good shape, so despite what it started out a little interesting with the soil reports and then with the water reports, but we're in good shape with the budget, so that's a great way to start the end of project.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Danny.
All right, thank you very much.
So the fourth item under town manager's report was policy and ordinance lists that were requested at the last meeting. So you have a couple different lists here, trying to capture all the written policies we have in our list policy, and then we have a list of our ordinances. Ordinances, as you know, take a little bit more time to become effective, but we should look at those over time. So as I stated in my report, you do not have the personnel policy because that's gonna require a little more work now that VLCT's attorneys aren't gonna be looking at it. So we have to figure out how our policy.
Why, cause they don't offer the service?
Yeah, they stopped offering the service mid-process, so I thought they were gonna offer it. And they said, well, our template has been reviewed by legal, and I said, well, we didn't want to just make our current personnel policy your template, we wanted to have you revise ours if it needed it. So I have to see if they're different, where they're different, I'm sure they are different in some places, I just don't know if it's substantial or just minor things. That one you're not gonna see this week or next, probably. But just so you have an idea, you can look at all the other ones. I'd say one of the policies, one of the ordinances I'd like to work on very soon, probably as early as January, is our motor vehicle ordinance. That's the one that lists all the speed limits and stop signs, all the no parking areas. That one, it needs to be updated anyway, to add a few new roads, and that's a good time to review speed limits.
Cause we gotta add that last road, Ridgeview, right? We have to
Mhm.
add that into there,
Mhm.
right?
And we have to go back at least a couple of years, we capture those little ones we did the year last year.
Was everybody good with that, looking at that one next?
I think that sounds great, yeah. I mean, I was looking at some that haven't been done for a while, that seem like they would be important, like fraud prevention. It looks like it's been
That's
12
been-
years or so. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it, read the whole thing, so I don't know if it needs to be updated. And the other one, I'm just curious about social media policy.
Mhm.
What
is that?
What in regards is that?
So when we
Obviously
first-
besides social media.
It was about 10 years ago, when I first got here and we first got a Facebook, Town of St. Albans Facebook page. VLCT, was advising us that we should have a policy, to limit abuse of each other and, you know, unproductive comments, just to not let things get out of hand. And this was 10 years ago that they suggested it, so it's a pretty, we followed their template, but if I remember correctly, it's only a page. It's not very long.
I'm just saying it's 2015. Social media's changed drastically even since then, so.
Oh,
I
was it
saw
2015?
That's
Yeah.
what the date on it is, in January of,
Okay.
sorry,
Wow.
June of 2015.
Yep.
Yeah. Just some thoughts I looked through 'em. I mean, I think the one with the stop signs, we've had a lot of people come in and ask about that. It's probably.
We have, yeah.
Probably takes priority.
Well, I mean, the other one you could look at, I don't know,
Yeah, maybe I'll just look at it.
that's the first step, to see if it's even close to
Yeah,
something that's
just-
acceptable, or if we really need to amend it.
Can you put that list back in their packet for next time, just so we have it?
Mm-hmm. Both the policies and ordinances, right?
Yeah, just the list.
And that policy. We could at least put that policy in there.
Can I go back one step?
Absolutely not.
I'll just,
Wow.
Well, I was coming
Yeah.
down,
Yes, sir.
driving down today, because we're definitely excited for the new town hall, but
Yeah.
does anyone know how long have select board meetings been in this building? I mean, this is the last one, so I was kinda curious how long they've been here.
Last one.
50, 60 years?
Long time.
Jack was there.
Jack was here when they started.
Not for the first one.
Oh,
That's why Jack still calls us the new town hall.
I don't know, we should find
Does
that
anyone-
out.
Yeah, I was just curious if anyone knew that. I mean, it's,
It was school and town hall when it was built.
Right,
yeah.
that's
So it
right,
was
Paul.
1896 or 1897, right
Yep.
after the city and the town separated. Because all of our records are up there
Nope, they're
prior
down
to
here now.
1896.
They
moved
were,
down?
there were some
She
up
did.
there.
You did?
Anna did.
Oh, that's gonna save a lot of time.
Don't save them gas
So,
mileage.
so it was used as a town hall originally as well, when it was built, school
Yeah,
and town hall?
that little section was, I think, the town hall, and that very small vault door was the original vault.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
So,
I got some old town reports that go back to 1887. So the first town of St. Albans
Drawing was upstairs.
town meeting was at the St. John the Baptist up on Lake Street. So I'll go through some of those, see if I can find
Great,
out
yeah.
when they actually moved in down here.
You have all those reports?
Yeah, Grandma kept them, I guess, I don't know.
Sorry,
Did you-
Jones, I just
well,
wanted to go back and see if we had the answer to that.
It's a great idea, maybe we ask our historic preservation committee.
That's right, now we're part of the
Text
deal.
Joe.
Seriously.
Where'd
Yeah.
Joe, did he leave?
Alright, alright, so we'll do that then, bring them back. Sorry, gotta go back to my red. The last thing under town manager was the Act 250 notices you're getting, some of the paperwork that's, well, you got Franklin Park West, but that's the only one this week, usually get a lot of them. No motions needed on that.
Okay, that's the update. The schedule of the next select board meeting will be at the new town hall, December 5th, and Monday, December 19th at 6:30. On December 5th at 5 o'clock to 6:30, we're gonna have a budget work session,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much sums that up. So other business, does anybody have any other business?
You just mentioned something about the speed limits, updating the speed limits. I'm not really sure what you meant by that.
Okay. Our motor vehicle ordinance, is an ordinance that police officers have to use when they write tickets, right? They have to have a copy of that. So every road that we have lists a speed, lists where stop signs are, lists where parking is allowed, where parking is not allowed. And specifically what we're talking about is updating roads that we just, accepted as a public road, so it's not in our ordinance at all.
But do you have control over the speed limits that are right here on Route 36, Lake Road?
We don't,
We
that's a
don't.
state road right now.
This is a state
But what we talked about earlier was, we are in some informal conversations with the state to take that over. But we would have to do an engineering, evaluation to change the speed limit. The select board can't just arbitrarily, eyeball it or take testimony on something like that. It has to be more, scientific than just changing it, cause it feels like it's too fast.
We can do it on our roads, all right?
We still have to follow those other, we can't just do it arbitrarily anymore. There's a whole, Bethany, who's the regional planning, transportation specialist, sent me, the rules on that. It's actually pretty comprehensive. The other thing that we talked about tonight, we covered a lot of different things, was if we actually make this intersection a four-way stop, that hopefully will slow people down some because they have to stop. There's different ways, we're not asking people to comply necessarily on their own. There will be some other enforcement that will encourage corrective behavior.
Blue lights.
Definitely.
Blue lights help a lot.
It definitely worked on, the tip of, Federal Street and, Lower Newton Street. Particularly since they put the new railroad building in there, that was a big help.
It was, yeah, it was.
Huge.
Yep. There's people that were skeptical there too,
No,
myself
it's,
included.
anybody who's skeptical of that is a fool.
Yep.
Caught me by surprise a couple mornings.
Oh, it took
For a couple
some
weeks, I'm like,
getting used to.
oh!
I mean, I live on Lower Newton Road, it took a couple.
Yeah.
Because it's so far back.
Uh-huh. I know.
Stop signs are so far back.
Yeah, the one on the west side, definitely.
Caught me before.
Okay, moving on. Executive session. So I see you took the verbiage off this time, is that?
Oh, I did that by mistake, so sorry. I have one though.
Need the verbiage.
I know, I have one.
If you got it right there, spit it out. Please.
Brian wants to read it.
Or Brian can read it, or pass it, I don't care.
I do have it. I just have it too.
Okay. We'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss a contractual and personnel matter where premature general public knowledge of the subject matter would place the town or person involved at a substantial disadvantage. It is further moved to enter into executive session to discuss a contractual and personnel matter undergoing the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes, and to invite the town manager, Carrie Johnson, Albo Gel, interim director of operations, and it's
44/7 strategies.
44/7 strategies. There's the motion.
I'll second.
May I ask a question before you go to motion? Will
Yeah.
there be a need for a motion for a decision made in this executive session? And if there is, will that motion offered and seconded and the vote be recorded in the minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
If-
I
if-
don't think there is.
Well,
There's-
so you never make motions in executive session.
You know, you make them when you come out.
You gotta come out.
Correct.
You gotta come out,
You-
and
you
it'll be
need-
recorded in
What
the
happens in the
minutes.
executive session is you do it by consensus, and then, but, you know, you really shouldn't be. Motions should be made when you come out. Now, I've
Yes.
never seen any motions after executive sessions in the
Because we
minutes.
don't usually have, once in, I think we've had one a little while ago, but we
I don't mean
haven't.
in executive session, but discussions.
There's fewer of those now that we have the
If you-
manager's
You
form
can
of
do the
government.
executive session, but when you make a decision as a
Yep.
result of that executive session, that
Correct.
should be done on a motion. You just can't walk away from it and not show it in the minutes.
That's true.
The motion was made, who
Well,
approved
if
it?
a motion is needed, but if it's something the town manager can just act on too, I don't think it's
That's
motion worthy.
That's not what I'm asking. I asked if you were going to have anything that's going to require a motion.
No, not.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think there is any.
I don't think so. You
It's
can.
just a
No.
standard formality
Yeah.
from the side of it.
New England State.
We have the
All right. Wait a minute, you seconded,
We need
and
a
you just
second to
vote.
vote.
Oh, all in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Yeah, I got you, Jen.
Second.
Just one,
Jack.
just one.